Hello and welcome. You're watching UATV News with me, Ksenia Bugay. Let's start with the latest developments. The German Ministry of Economic Affairs and Energy did not consult with Kiev on the certification of the Nord Stream 2. This was stated by Yuri Vitrenko, chairman of the board of the national joint stock company Naftogaz of Ukraine. He noted that the Foreign Department provided the German regulator with an official conclusion that the certification of the Russian gas pipeline does not threaten the security of gas supplies to the countries of the European Union. At the same time, the ministry published a list of states with which they consulted on this issue. Ukraine is not among them.
We can tell you how certification of the Nord Stream 2 operator under current conditions, that is, without real separation of property from Gazprom, without real access of third parties to export gas pipelines from Russia to the EU, poses a critical threat to the security of gas supplies in Germany and other EU countries.
Ukraine will continue insisting on the application of the third energy package to the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline. For this purpose, Kyiv continues close cooperation with German partners, said Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine Dmytro Kuleba. According to him, our country is disappointed with the judgment of the German Ministry of Economic Affairs and Energy, stating that the certification of the Russian gas pipeline causes no threat to the security of the gas supplies to the European Union. Ukraine will continue to convey its position to international partners.
As for the decision of the German regulator, it makes us sad. We will bring this position to the German partners, and we will work with them to ensure that the decision on Nord Stream 2 is not taken hastily, without careful analysis and study. I would like to emphasize that no matter how fast the actions of the German regulator are, the key is to involve the European Commission in this process. The ultimate goal is the application of the third energy package to Nord Stream 2.
Ukraine moves towards implementing the NATO standards faster than before. This was stated by First Deputy Chairman of Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine Alexander Kornienko at the conclusion of the meeting of the NATO Intergovernmental Council in Odessa. 13 international delegations took part in the discussion, the talking points of which concerned the security in the Black Sea region, the issue of the occupation of Crimea, as well as key reforms fostering the accession of Ukraine to NATO.
The pace of legislation reforms we need to do to be ready to join NATO has become much more intense than before. We have made good progress over the last 2 years.
Moscow is afraid of the Normandy Four Summit. Alexander Levchenko, ambassador of Ukraine to the Republic of Croatia and Bosnia and Herzegovina between 2010 and 2017, told this in an interview to our TV channel. Would the meeting take place, then France, Germany and Ukraine will collectively accuse Russia of violation of the Minsk agreements. The diplomat believes that's why Kremlin constantly finds a reason to avoid the Normandy Four format.
Moscow
constantly says that Ukraine is breaking something. But in fact, the main troublemaker here is Moscow. Taking into account the issuing of passports, the illegal involvement of our citizens living in the temporarily occupied territories of Donbass, to the electoral process of the Russian Federation, all this will be brought to assessment. This is a serious violation of the Minsk agreements.
Military justice to appear in Ukraine. The new body will search for stolen military armament and investigate and prevent illegal arms trade. In addition, it will collect evidence of Russia's war crimes and ensure law order in Donbass. This was stated by the Prosecutor General of Ukraine, Irina Venediktova, at a meeting of heads of law enforcement agencies. The issue of unified registration of available lost and wanted firearms remains unresolved at the general state level. To a large extent, law and order in the military is affected by the lack of a single special body authorized to detect and investigate violations in all military formations and the Defense Ministry. A historic decision. The collection of Scythian gold will be returned to Ukraine. According to the Amsterdam Court of Appeal decision, historical artifacts of ancient Crimea have been kept in a museum in the Netherlands. For 7 years, all this time Russia has been trying to take the collection to the occupied peninsula. What are the items of the unique collection and what is the role of the Dutch court's decision in countering Russian hybrid aggression? My colleagues found out.
Golden helmet of the 4th century BC, Scythian swords in precious sheaths, jewelry and household items. Those cultural values were exhibited at the Allard Pearson Museum in Amsterdam. The exhibition Crimea, the Golden Island in the Black Sea was held from February the 7th to August 31st, 2014. A unique collection was collected from artifacts from 6 Ukrainian museums.
The Allard Pearson Museum now keeps 565 items, 565 exhibits which consist of more than 2,000 artifacts which reveal the ancient and early medieval history of the Crimea and the northern Black Sea coast. And not all gold that is in the collection is Scythian. Some are of the Goth and Samaritan origin.
After the exhibition, the Allard Pearson Museum did not take responsibility for where to return the exhibits received from the Crimean museums. Indeed, while the artifacts were exhibited in Amsterdam, Russia occupied the peninsula.
When this gold was brought to the exhibition, there were other legal conditions and circumstances, namely Crimea was completely controlled by the Ukrainian state, the territory of which is the Crimean Peninsula, and by the time the exhibition was already taking place, Russian army came and occupied Crimea. That gold is Ukrainian, it cannot be transferred to the territory which Ukraine does not yet control.
4 Crimean museums demanded that the exhibits be returned to the occupied territory. Experts say that if the artifacts were returned to the Crimean museums before the end of the occupation, Russia would have taken out all the valuables, as it did before with the Ukrainian cultural heritage.
We would never see them again. Perhaps they would not have taken everything to the Hermitage at once, but in the event of some unrest in the Crimea or some problems, they would rob Crimea.
Litigation about the fate of the relics did not stop for 7 years. In 2016, the Amsterdam District Court ruled in favor of Ukraine. But Crimean museums filed an appeal, the consideration of which lasted even longer than the consideration of the case in the first instance.
Such situation happened due to COVID pandemic and we understand it. This has influenced almost all lawsuits and arbitrations, and at the same time we had a question of removal of the judge.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine says that the Kremlin's fakes about the Russian heritage of Crimea failed, and the return of artifacts to Ukraine will have not only material and cultural value, but it will also play a big role in the fight against Russian propaganda that manipulates history.
We have won and achieved justice. Indeed, the international law is not fast, but all the Russian fakes, manipulations and attempts to mislead the court have failed.
The decision to return Scythian gold and other ancient Crimean relics to the territory of Ukraine was also welcomed by President Volodymyr Zelensky.
The long-awaited victory in the Amsterdam Court of Appeal. Scythian gold returns to Ukraine. Grateful to the court for a fair decision and to Ministry of Justice, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Culture and Information Policy of Ukraine for the result. We always regain what's ours. After the Scythian gold will return Crimea. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky in Twitter.
Scythian gold will definitely return to Crimea, but only after the deoccupation of the peninsula. Reported by Vadim Kramer and Yulia Krychkova, UATV News.
The Center for Civilian Protection started operating today in the town of Ocheretino in the Donetsk region. Among its functions is a swift response to emergencies and urgent medical care to local residents. The institution will work around the clock. This is already the 16th center of this kind in the Donetsk region.
We can see today such centers for civilian protection opening. They are designed to ensure security, comfort, stability in local communities. Of course, we have certain parameters according to which such centers should work. 20 minutes, this is the maximum time limit for the response of all services to the emergency. We are also bringing our standards in accordance with the best European and world criteria.
2,600,000 households in Ukraine received automatic recalculation of subsidies. Deputy Minister of Social Policy of Ukraine Vitaly Muzychenko announced this. He noted that payment of subsidies for October will begin in early November, and he urged those who are going to apply for assistance from the state not to postpone this issue and already contact the social protection authorities. Muzychenko reminded that those who have errors in the payment of alimony or the payment of utilities will not be able to apply to subsidies.
За останній буквально тиждень
Over the past week, more than 50,000 households have applied to the social protection authorities for a housing subsidy. This is about the same number as during the whole month in the unheated period. That is, now we see a rather serious increase in the demand for registration of housing subsidies. We foresee that most applications will be filed in November and early December.
зараз ми бачимо.
Ukrainian Cyberpolice has detained a developer who created a fake Diia application. A 21-year-old young man designed the software, completely copying the design of the government app. Using it, one could generate any fake document, as well as change one's age, add a photo, or generate a fake COVID-19 vaccination certificate. The hacker was selling his software through social networks for 100 hryvnia. The prosecution has initiated a criminal proceeding. He faces up to 6 years in prison.
Наразі правоохоронці вживають заходів.
Law enforcement officers are taking measures to block the distribution of the fake application. It also identifies people who have purchased an application to provide legal qualifications to their actions. Law enforcement officers conducted searches, confiscated developers' computer equipment, bank cards, and mobile phones. 30% of adults in Ukraine vaccinated against COVID-19 with at least one dose. According to Ukrainian Health Minister Viktor Levchenko, there is no lack of vaccines in the country. There are over 9 million doses throughout vaccination centers. By the end of the year, Ukraine expects several additional transfers. All the vaccines to arrive are approved by the World Health Organization.
Відповідно до укладених контрактів на закупівлю
In accordance with the contract signed for the purchase of vaccines, by the end of 2021, Ukraine will receive another 13,400,000 Comirnaty Pfizer vaccines. Besides, 5,450,000 doses are confirmed to arrive in 2021 within the frameworks of the global COVAX initiative. Thus, the total number of vaccines Ukraine expects to obtain by the end of 2021 is 18,750,000 doses.
становить 8...
Representatives of the Youth Councils of Ukraine, Poland, and Lithuania signed a Memorandum of Cooperation within the Youth Lublin Triangle. This was stated by Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, Dmytro Kuleba. He stressed that 3 youth councils unite a total of 264 youth organizations and 11,000 young Ukrainians, Poles, and Lithuanians.
Молодіжний Люблінський трикутник
The Lublin Youth Triangle will become a ground for cultural, social, and educational interaction of young people, exchange of experience and joint projects. I know that they have student exchanges and special scholarships in their plans. I look forward to the active contribution of young people to the efforts of the Lublin Triangle to counter disinformation. For its part, the Foreign Ministry is ready to continue involving young people in our regional initiatives.
COVID-19 pandemic, climate change, and involvement of youth into international politics, those are the issues that will be on the agenda of the youth organizations from Lithuania, Poland, and Ukraine within the framework of the Lublin Triangle. Yet, up next year, the association is planning to create an international non-government organization with focus on countering disinformation and Russian influence.
Ключові напрямки дії.
The key directions of the activity of the Youth Lublin Triangle are the issue of Ukraine's European integration, the issue of promoting the historical heritage of these 3 countries, and the issue of opportunities for youth, as well as joint projects and position documents. What are the achievements of Olympic athletes and how the Winter Olympic and Paralympic Games in China in 2022 will be held? 100 days before the start of the competition, the Embassy of the People's Republic of China in Ukraine organized a reception in Kiev. Our correspondents will tell you how do the organizers plan to surprise the world and how many Ukrainian athletes are going to compete for medals.
Ровно 100 дней.
100 days remain before the start of the Winter Olympic Games in Beijing. The Embassy of the People's Republic of China in Ukraine has organized a gala reception in order to better acquaint Ukrainians with the culture and traditions of their country, as well as to popularize the Olympic values.
The Olympic Games 2022 will make Beijing the first ever capital of two Olympics. In 2008, the Summer Games took place here, and in a few months the Winter Olympics will start. For the residents of the Celestial Empire, this is a matter of pride and significant savings on infrastructure. The opening and closing ceremony of the 2022 Games will take place at the Bird's Nest Stadium, built for the 2008 Olympics. The water cube swimming complex was converted for winter sports. The declared budget for the Olympic Games is almost $4 billion.
Построили целый ряд красивых.
We've built a number of beautiful stadiums, tracks, 350 kilometers per hour high-speed railway. There will be the world's first high-speed unmanned train.
The Olympic selection for the Beijing Games will continue until the 24th of January. Ukrainian athletes apply for licenses in 13 sports. Today, our team has 100% tickets to the Winter Olympics.
Это в фигурном катании закончился.
This is the end of the qualifying period in figure skating, and we have all licenses in ice dancing and an individual license for men and women. Besides, according to the results of last year in biathlon, we have 10 licenses, 5 for men and 5 for women, and 6 licenses for cross-country skiing.
The Olympic Games in Beijing will be held between the 4th and the 20th of February in 2021 under the motto "Together for a Common Future." Unlike the Tokyo Olympics, local spectators from mainland China will be allowed into the stands. Unvaccinated athletes will have to go through 3 weeks of isolation after arriving in Beijing. Reported by Nick Starkov and Olena Diduch for UATV News.
First Lady of Ukraine Olena Zelenska took part in a new special project by Vogue Ukraine, which is dedicated to the heroes of the Paralympics in Tokyo. In an interview with the publication, the president's wife spoke in detail about the project Without Barriers, which became one of her main activities. Olena Zelenska believes that each of us can contribute to improving the lives of people with disabilities. That's all for today. More updates on our official website, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter pages. Stay safe and take care of yourself.